Hello, welcome to The Conversation on News Central Television. This is a program where we bring you up to speed with all the political happenings on the African continent. I am your host, Gbenga Aborowa. Today on the program, we will be revisiting the diplomatic tension between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo regarding the conflict in DRC's east. The United Nations is set to release a new report with evidence of Rwanda's support for M23 rebels despite denials by Kigali. Also, we will be discussing the latest in the cash withdrawal limit set by Nigeria's central bank. Do stay with us. The involvement of the Rwandan authorities in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo conflict has again come to the fore in a yet-to-be-published report by a group of independent United Nations experts. The experts claim that there is substantial evidence to prove that the Rwandan army directly intervened in Congo's fight against M23 rebels and that it had supported the group with weapons and ammunition and uniforms. The Democratic Republic of Congo has repeatedly accused Rwanda of backing the M23 rebels, although Kigali continues to deny the allegations. But the United States and France, among other Western countries, have agreed with the DRC's assessment. A government spokesperson in Kigali declined to comment on specific allegations until the findings were formally published.
On nous a jamais montré, qu'on n'a jamais vu. Bon, peut-être que quand le rapport va sortir officiellement, on aura tous ces documents à examiner. Aujourd'hui, tant qu'on n'a pas vu les preuves matériellement, tant qu'on n'a pas examiné ces soi-disant preuves, il est difficile de se positionner parce que il dit une chose et son contraire. Je dis, aujourd'hui, il faut d'abord qu'on ait le rapport, bien sûr, d'une façon officielle, qu'on l'examine, qu'on examine les preuves dont on parle et qu'on puisse aussi y répondre. Là, on se base sur des bribes qui sont sorties. Et
mais ces bribes-là, par exemple, il n'y a pas possibilité qu'il y ait une once de vérité là-dedans?
Pour qu'on parle d'une once de vérité, il faut qu'on puisse avoir des choses matérielles. Pas seulement, je dirais, se baser sur des paroles. Le Rwanda est capable d'assurer la sécurité de son territoire, la sécurité de son peuple. On n'a pas besoin d'un groupe armé pour pouvoir aider le Rwanda.
Donc vous ne soutenez pas le M23?
On ne soutient pas le M23, on n'en a pas besoin. Aujourd'hui, on parle de la sécurité du Rwanda qui est menacée par certains groupes armés à l'est du Congo.
Now, join us live from Geneva, Switzerland is Bénédicte Kumbi Ndjoko, historian and spokesperson of Likambo, Mabele. Oh, and we also have Analyst and Spokesperson Center for Research on the Congo, Kambale, Masuvali, who will join in from Washington, D.C. A warm welcome to you, Bénédicte, and thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Now, Bénédicte, what do you make of this latest United Nations report saying that the Rwandan army engaged in operations in eastern DRC and supports the M23 rebels? This is not the first time a report of this nature would be published.
Yes, exactly. And this is what I was going to say, meaning that this is not something that is not known to the Congolese people. We need to go back to the mapping report that actually made an exercise, a mapping exercise of the violence that were committed on the Congolese soil from 1993 to 2003. And after that, each year, the Security Council has issued a report that was showing the involvement of Rwanda in Congo and the aggression of the Rwandan state against the Congo. So this report actually, I would say, is just a confirmation of what the Congolese people have been saying for more than 20 years now regarding what is happening in Congo.
Now, Bénédicte, we've heard the spokesperson of the Rwandan government yet again denying, in spite of all the evidence that's been presented and all the reports. So what effect will this report have on the situation of things in the eastern DRC?
I mean, what the Rwandan actually authorities are doing, I mean, this is nothing new again. This has been their position since the beginning of the war that they are waging against Congo. So I would say that they are in their natural role in actually denying all those reports and all the accusations that are made against them. As per the effect of the report, I would say that this is something I think that is going also to empower the Congolese population first, because this is a population that has been actually disregarded in their claim and also humiliated most of the time when they were telling about what was happening in the country. Now, as per the effects, really, maybe Rwanda is going to try to find other lies in order to refute the evidences that those reports are showing. And for the Western powers, it's a way for them, in a certain sense, to try to appease, I would say, the Congolese population, because this is really the trend. Whenever the Congolese population is showing really its anger and they show that they're being upset about the situation, what the international community, if we can call them so, even if they don't exist, but the international community will always try to, in a certain way, give bits and pieces to the Congolese people in order to satisfy them. Because I think that the fear, the great fear here is to see really a vibrant democracy in the heart of Africa. And this is something that has been fought against and that has been prevented since Congo accession to the independence. So this is, I think, what was also intended with that report. But we're happy in the sense that this is something that is going to empower Congolese population and for them to pursue the fight for justice.
Something that would empower the Congolese population. I'd like to bring in Kambale Masuvali, researcher and spokesperson at the Friends of the Congo-Kinshasa, joins in from Washington, D.C. A warm welcome to you, Kambale. Now, Kambale, the Rwandan authorities have continued to deny involvement in sponsoring M23 rebels. They say there are over 120 rebel groups in the Congo, and that this M23 is a Congolese problem and the Congolese should fix it. Now, what's the current situation of things in the eastern DRC as we speak? Can you kindly unmute?
The reason why it's very dire is because of the fact that millions have been displaced in the DRC for the past few years. And the killing in this year is taking the toll all the way up to thousands of Congolese who have died. Let's look at the massacre that took place on November 28th and 29th in the town of Kishishe and Gambo, if I'm not mistaken. Bambo, if I'm not mistaken. These two towns, we had civilians who were killed as a reprisal killing by the M23 because, according to the M23, they were collaborating with militia groups fighting them on Congolese soil. Women were raped in public, people were beaten to death, killed, and buried alive. So the mass graves exist now. Is this the first mass grave that we have in the DRC? No. If you look at the UN mapping exercise report, in the beginning of this report, it clearly states that the reason why the UN mapping exercise report was created is because the United Nations found 5 mass graves in South Kivu. And that made the UN in around 2007, decide to do this report, the UN mapping exercise report. So we have so many mass graves, and the death toll has risen all the way up to over 6 million Congolese. The thing that's much more upsetting to me is the lack of action of the international community. What do I mean by that? And when I'm saying the international community, I'm going to focus on the African countries, right? We have the African Union that's led by Macky Sall, and the president of Senegal is quite complacent with the killing in the DRC. A statement coming out of the African Union is discussing going to Nairobi or Rwanda and following agreement that's been there. But we're talking about human beings being massacred. On the African continent, we have to wait for Washington, for France, for Germany, for Spain, and now, as of yesterday, for Belgium to say that there was a massacre that took place for the world to actually move. I mean, that's an insult to the African continent, that African leaders are not able to look at the situation in the Congo and say, wait a minute, the country of Patrice Lumumba, one of the richest countries in the world, is a power engine that can transform the African continent.
But Kambale, when you say the African Union and Africans are not doing anything about it, the EAC, East African Community leaders authorized the use of force against M23 rebels. And I mean, they said if they don't withdraw from the military, from their positions, or they don't observe a ceasefire, there will be lethal solutions to it. They're going to confront them. Isn't that part of a solution to dealing with the problems?
It is not part. I'm going to say what. This UN report clearly shows it. In the East African community, you have Rwanda and Uganda, who are members of the Eastern African community. Uganda has deployed its forces in the Congo. They are actually around the Bunagana area, right, at the border of Congo and Uganda. The UN report is showing us also that Uganda is complicit in supporting the M23. What most people have not asked is, if the M23 was defeated in 2013, and then ran into refuge in Rwanda and Uganda, how is it possible that these forces coming back to the DRC with sophisticated weapons, assaulting civilians and killing? So looking at the East African community response that does not take into account accountability for Rwanda and Uganda, given the evidence provided by the UN group of experts, which is evidence that Congolese have continuously stated for years and years that Rwanda and Uganda are in the Congo, are supporting proxy rebel militias for access to our resources and taking over the land. So it will not make sense at all to have a statement of the East African community that is not condemning two of its own members for invading the DRC.
Thank you, Kambale. I'd like to bring in Bénédicte. Now, Bénédicte, Kambale did mention the lack of action by the international community. But the U.S. administration, unlike the U.S. administration, the United Kingdom has said nothing about UN reports on Rwanda's backing of M23 in Congo. Kambale did mention that even Belgium yesterday condemned Rwanda's backing of M23 rebels. It looked as if London was in a bizarre competition with Paris to be Kigali's best friend. So Paris has called out Kigali for supporting M23 rebels. Why is the United Kingdom government not speaking up? And why is it important for them to do something about this?
But I think that we have to look at latest happenings in the UK, meaning that the United Kingdom signed a deal with Mr. Kagame of sending refugees in Rwanda, and Rwanda got money for that. And of course, now it will be difficult for them to condemn a country that they consider, and they've been very vocal about that, saying that this was a safe country and this was going to help with the refugee situation in the UK and in Europe in general, that this will actually prevent people to be trafficked and so on. So of course, I mean, when you support such regime, by doing this kind of acts. You cannot condemn that same country and show actually that it is not reliable or maybe accountable. So of course that the UK is not going to say anything against Kigali today. And we don't have to forget as well that Tony Blair, for instance, has been one of the major counselor also of Paul Kagame. He's taking a lot of money from that regime, money that they are taking from Congo, and because I don't want to say that they steal from Congo, which they do, but they take a lot of money from Rwanda as counselors. So there are, of course, British involvement in Rwanda, and the UK has always shown actually very much, I would say, not a lot of consideration for what it was happening in Congo, as long as they have their way and as long as they can do business in that region. So I think that the silence of the UK is quite normal when we look at the way they have been defending Rwanda all those years. And even if they know perfectly that this is a regime that is really violent and brutal, because we have accounts, for instance, of Rwandans nationals who were supposed to be assassinated in the UK, who were prevented. They prevented Rwanda to do so in alerting those persons. So they perfectly know how brutal this regime is. But business is stronger here. And with that refugee crisis that is happening all over the world, they cannot say otherwise.
It's almost like a situation where their hands are tied, almost like a quid pro quo. You do this for me, and I'll just back off. Now, Kambale, the U.S. Foreign Relations Committee Senator Menendez, in a statement a few weeks ago, said he's calling on Rwanda to halt its support for M23 rebels in eastern DRC, responsible for killing Congolese citizens. M23 and its backers, from what we've heard and the facts on ground, merit international condemnation and must be held accountable. So we've heard the condemnations: Belgium, France, the United States. What's Rwanda's role in this conflict, and why have they not been held responsible? Because these things have real life effects. For every second they waste, lives will be lost, and it's disruptive to the lives of those in the heart of this conflict in the eastern DRC. So when are we going to see action beyond, statements and condemnations? When would we see that Kigali is brought to justice and they're held responsible for the actions in the eastern DRC?
It's hard to predict. As Congolese, I don't think that we are waiting for the West anymore. This is why you see, even in the context of the UN, this report that was just published, there is documentation of the Congolese army collaborating with Mai forces. Mai are Congolese militia groups, who some of them protect different areas. And because of the context of the war, unfortunately, many of them also abuse the population. And they have created some form of coalition with the Congolese army at the moment fighting the M23. So for the Congolese, we're not waiting anymore for the West to address the situation. We have seen for the past 2 decades the hypocrisy of the West. Why am I saying the hypocrisy? Just this week, I'm in Washington, D.C. now. Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, was in Washington. I saw the U.S. statement around Ukraine. I saw the U.S. action around Ukraine. I saw the billions of dollars being committed to support Ukraine. Is there a difference between a Ukrainian and Congolese? That's the fundamental question we have to ask in this humanity. No, Congolese are human beings. Over 6 million have died, and there is no action. Now, we are not appealing to the moral values of the United States. Senator Menendez, I always thank him for his action in the U.S. Senate, for continuing to put pressure. The thing that's always baffling me is the fact that in the United States, unlike other countries, there is actually a law called Public Law 109-456 the Democratic Republic of Congo Relief Security Democracy Promotion Act of 2006. A long name, mouthful. This was written by Barack Obama when he was a senator, supported by other senators, about 12 of them, and he was passed into law, signed into law by George Bush. This law clearly says, right, no moral, we're not looking into moral values, right? But the law says in its section 105 that the US Secretary of State has the power to withhold aid to any nation destabilizing the Congo. So this is law. The US Secretary of State Blinken has traveled to the region, has traveled to the DRC. In his visit in DRC, he said to the press that he has credible evidence that Rwanda is supporting the M23 rebels. Not only that, on December 5th, he himself made a phone call to Paul Kagame and put out online the conversation that they had where he urged the Rwandan president to stop supporting, the Rwandan government to stop supporting the M23 rebels. So we are very clear that the US Secretary of State has evidence, credible evidence, that he himself is saying that he's taking upon himself to call a head of state to ask him to stop supporting the militia group. So what I do not understand up until now is why Senator Menendez is not invoking Public Law 109-456 and the implementation of Section 105 to withhold aid. I can infer in saying the reason why they're not doing so is because Rwanda continues to be a U.S. ally on the so-called war on terror and also playing the role of an agent of the West on the African continent. What does that clearly mean? Rwandan soldiers are deployed in Mozambique. They are deployed in Central African Republic. They were deployed in Mali, even in Haiti at some point. And in these, it's one of the most important African nations deploying the soldiers for UN missions. So because of what they are giving to the West, the dirty bidding that they're doing on behalf of the West, sending their troops as mercenaries across the world, sending even intelligence services to African nations, this is something that's been exposed sometime this year, no one is willing to hold them accountable. So the appeal for the Congolese is not for the Western nations. The appeal for the Congolese is to take the matters into their own hand to bring about peace and stability, because for the past 2 decades, they have pleaded with the world. Congolese are one of the most peaceful people. Imagine for the past 2 decades, they have yet crossed the border to say, we are going to invade the country that's invading us. So at this point, it's really up to the African people and the Congolese people to stop the M23 and to fight for democracy, to fight for justice, more importantly, so we can hold perpetrators of violence accountable, just as what has happened. It's not full justice, but Bosco Ntaganda has just been served with a sentence of 30 years in the Belgian jail. And we should ask ourselves, if Bosco Ntaganda, a former leader of the CNDP, which is not M23, is in a jail in Belgium, serving sentence for war crimes, crimes against humanity, when will we hold his backers accountable?
Thank you very much, Kambale. Now, Bénédicte, the Rwandan president has fired back. I mean, all fingers are pointing to Kigali, but Kigali keeps denying. Rwandan President Paul Kagame on 30th of November spoke for about, I think, 48 minutes, and just on the subject of the DRC. He accused a DRC leader, Félix Tshisekedi, of exploiting the ongoing insecurity in the eastern DRC to postpone next year's presidential elections. What do you make of this? And why would he talk about the DRC for 48 minutes on a subject he claims he knows nothing about?
I think this is really the question. Why is he talking about a subject that he say he's not concerned about? But again, I think that we need to understand that those accusations and even those reports, even though we know perfectly that from the West is a way, as I was saying, to give bits and pieces to the Congolese people, but nevertheless, this really shed a certain light on Rwanda, which is uncomfortable for them, because this is a narrative now that is competing with another narrative that has been told about Rwanda, meaning that he, Paul Kagame, was the savior and he developed Rwanda. And of course, that this is really something that is going to very much affect this narrative. And he has to fight to fight it, because as Kambale has said also, Rwanda is also getting credibility on that genocide narrative in order to externalize wars around Africa most of the time. And we have to understand that whenever they participate to a UN mandate somewhere in Africa, it's not the soldiers that are going to put in place that are going to receive that money, but the UN is going to give an envelope to that country, and they can pay whatever they want to pay to their soldiers. And we know, if we look at the numbers, because the IMF also said that in a certain way, the numbers that comes out from Rwanda saying that this is a country that is developing itself are not true. So this is a regime that badly also needs money. And if they cannot get cash, if they don't sustain that so-called reputation they have. And so, of course, that they are going to fight that narrative. I would say that Congo, and the fact that Congolese people are so vocal about what is happening in their country, and because they're pointing Rwanda as one of the responsible of the situation of Congo, is very much, it is bothering them. We don't have to forget that this is an autocrat, this is a dictatorship. And even, I mean, psychologically speaking, these are people who are not ready to hear voices that are saying otherwise to what they're saying. And he has been successful in doing that in Rwanda, in silencing a population. And then he has this country, he has those Congolese people telling him that he's a criminal and that he should face justice for that. So I'm not astonished that he spends about 45 minutes talking about what is happening in Congo. And I think that this is something natural for criminals anyway. They always try to commit the perfect crimes. But what happens here is that Congo is not the perfect crime for Mr. Kagame. And it is about time he hears that. And of course that he's going to defend himself. But we as Congolese people, we are not going to rest, and we are going to pursue that fight and really just put on the table what is happening there, what are the manipulations, what he's doing in that region, and how he's doing it, because it involves a lot of levels. And when we talk about Congo, it is always important really to look at history, to look at what has been done in that region. There are enough documents that are showing the actions of Rwanda and what are their aim, what they want to seize in Congo. And of course, when we put that to the fore, and when we shed light on that, it is going to bother Mr. Kagame for sure.
Thank you very much for your contribution, Bénédicte, Kumbi, Ndjoko, historian and spokesperson at Likambo, Mabele, joining live from Geneva, Switzerland, and also Kambale, Masuvali, Analyst and Spokesperson, Center for Research in the Congo-Kinshasa. It was a pleasure talking to you both, and thanks for your contribution and time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you always.
If you're just joining us, this is The Conversation, a New Central Television, which has concluded our conversation on the United Nations report indicting Rwanda for involvement in the DRC. When we return from this break, we'll be looking at the latest development of the Central Bank of Nigeria cash limits. Do stay with us.